Welcome to The Gas, the official podcast of American Cars and Racing. I'm Gary Gasteloo. If you're not familiar with American Cars and Racing, head over to AmericanCarsAndRacing.com after the show, of course. But the name is what it is. It's a news outlet that covers American cars, cars built in America by brands from around the world and the U.S. motorsport scene. And a little later in the show, we're going to be talking to one of the rising stars in NASCAR. He's the 2025 ARCA Menards Series Champion, Brenden Queen, who's moving up to the Truck Series. And this guy has an amazing story that I think any NASCAR fan, any motorsports fan, any sports fan, really anybody can appreciate. A lot of persistence went into his journey. It's not rags to riches. It's hard work paying off. You're going to hear a lot about this guy. We're going to be talking to him in a bit. Now, you may be thinking the show's called The Gas because my name's Gary Gasteloo, but I'm not that vain. And to prove it, let me introduce my co-host today. He's an automotive journalist, a communications guru, and an all-around raconteur. You may know him as Nunes. We know him as Alex Nunez, and this is the Gary and Alex Show. Say hello to the people, Alex.
Hey, Gary. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
The real reason we like Alex, though, is because he drives a red Ford Mustang GT convertible, and you can't find a more American car than that. What year is that car, Alex?
It's an '06. I think I get to put antique plates on it next year.
You bought that new?
No, I bought it a year old.
1 year old. Actually, that's good. You got some of the
That's right.
depreciation there. Smart buy. But I'm assuming that's one of those from my cold dead hand situations. That's in your
Yeah,
driveway until you
I
don't have a
mean,
driveway anymore.
yeah, that's pretty much a forever car. There's no reason to get rid of it. It's been great, and I expect it to continue to be great.
The Mustang's great too, but its greatest days, I think, are behind it. Not performance wise, but sales wise. There's a new Mustang that's just been revealed. It's not on sale yet, going on sale next year. It's called the Mustang RTR. It's a very different direction for the Mustang. It was a collaboration with drift racing driver Vaughn Gittin Jr. and his RTR vehicles, which builds performance parts, and they build their own Mustangs that they sell. But this one's a factory Mustang. It's going to be built in Flat Rock and actually is oriented towards drifting. Before we get into that, though, I'm going to talk about the Mustang in general. I was looking at this just now. In 2015, when the sixth generation Mustang came out, they sold 122,000 Mustangs, a pretty good year. This year, they're on track to sell about 40,000, 45,000, and that's with the Camaro out of the picture for 2 years. That's with the Challenger out of the picture for the past 2 years. The pony car segment is really just, it's done. It's never going back to what it was, is it?
Probably not because it's a truck market, and in fairness to Ford, talking about the Mustang, they're enthusiast. It's not that Ford is really embarrassed enthusiast vehicles. I mean, all you have to do is look at Bronco. I mean, Bronco to me is what the Mustang probably was 10 years ago, in terms of a vehicle that is sporty and aspirational and like checks all those boxes. Mustang's awesome. I mean, the 5-liter Mustangs are so good. They're so fast, as you well know. And I expect this RTR to be great. The EcoBoost Mustangs are a ton of fun. But the pony car segment is kind of dead because it is. I mean, credit to Mustang for being consistent and never stopping production. We're now in the sort of second Camaro pause right now. Dodge, I'm not worried about Dodge because we have this new, gasoline powered Charger, coming back now, the six pack. And I have a feeling that's going to find an audience. But yeah, I mean, pony car segment is not what it was, just because I think that the audience is not what it was, not even 10 years ago, much less, decades ago.
And I think part of the problem is that, obviously affordability is an issue. And
Yeah.
when you're talking about buying one car, it's hard to justify a sports car to anybody. And the most recent ones just are less useful than they used to be. I had a 1989 Mustang. It was a hatchback. You could
Yeah.
fit people in the back seat. I loaded that thing up like a pickup truck. It was an entirely useful vehicle beyond being a fun car to drive. The new Mustang is not that. The latest Camaro, Chevrolet kind of shot itself in the foot. The 2010 Camaro that was the best seller for a while was at least a decent size. But then they went and made it smaller. The back seat on the sixth generation Camaro, completely useless. The trunk was tiny. It was expensive. At that point, sure, I'm buying a Corvette. Why am I buying a Camaro at this point? The Mustang, at least you can get somebody in the back seat now. And of course, the Challenger was always a big hit because that was a size larger and an entirely useful day-to-day car, even if you carried a lot of people around in it. And the new one is a full-size car. And they were really smart to do that because the Charger, a lot of people probably forget, the last generation Charger actually outsold the Challenger and the Mustang and the Camaro. But people were buying that as a muscle car. They weren't buying it as a boring family car. They viewed that as a muscle car. And we're hearing talk about maybe the next generation Mustang will be a four-door, or they'll offer a four-door, which would be really smart. Better still, this new Charger is a hatchback and it's enormous. It's essentially a station wagon or a sport utility vehicle that looks like a muscle car. The appeal of it, if they can get the price down, is just so broad that it should do pretty well. Meanwhile, the Mustang, Ford has seemed to have been taking it more into these niche segments, focused on the GT, the dark horse, the $327,000 GTD, obviously super niche there. But now we come back to the Mustang RTR, and they really went to town on this thing too. It has a new steering rack with a wider steering angle like drift cars have. It has the drift brake. It has anti-lag on the engine. They didn't just put stickers on and call it RTR vehicles. They put some effort into it. I don't know what the market is for a drift-oriented Mustang. Obviously, they're trying to appeal to that scene, which is more import oriented,
Yeah.
although Von Gittin Jr. does drive Mustangs, so there's got to be it. And he sells, a couple a year that they build over there, a couple dozen. I don't know how many they're doing these years, but they have a $150,000 version of a 870 horsepower Mustang that RTR Vehicles build. So people are buying them. I just don't know if thousands of people are buying them, which is what Ford's going to have to do with this.
Well, I mean, the distribution equation is totally different. This is going to be sold at Ford stores. I mean, RTR, that's a very niche, sort of boutique operation. Those cars are super cool, and they're really good at marketing themselves. I mean, it goes beyond Vaughn's, success as a drifter. I mean, you can drive the RTR cars in like Forza and things like that. So, I mean, the name is well established. They do a ton of, cool stuff. I think the branding works. I think this RTR Mustang is very cool looking, which is that's another thing that the RTR Mustangs are. All the subtle, visual stylistic tweaks that those cars have, make them stick out. So, I mean, the real thing, it gets back to something you mentioned earlier. It's going to be like, how expensive is this going to be, and do you get to a point where it's like, well, I'll just buy the equivalent 5 liter car, and just have that. So, is the audience there? Remember, these automakers, they don't go into these things blind. I mean, we all like to sort of hammer them for some of their decisions, product decisions sometimes, but none of these decisions are taken lightly, so there's plenty of market research and, Ford does promote the performance end of everything pretty substantially. So this slots right into that narrative.
And that is another part of what they're doing with Mustang these days, along with the production cars. They've got the Dark Horse R race car and race series for it. That's $150,000. They're selling those. They brought them to Le Mans this year and had a race there, a couple of
Yep.
dozen cars. So that's been popular. You could buy a factory Mustang GT4, a GT3. They're really going up against Porsche, those types of brands with the Mustang. Now, look, it's still not a fancy car when you get in it. I mean, even that GTD at $327,000, you got the same interior as you do a Mustang Dark Horse, that's a big jump from 70 grand to $327,000 without changing the car that much. At least like a 911 that starts out with the base version that goes up to a GT3. That base version's already over $100,000 and pretty
Right.
fancy. And then they do throw in the crazy seats and the extra trim and all that. Ford, that'll be interesting. They're obviously having no problem selling the GTDs. We don't know how many they're selling, but they're sold out already. And we saw what they did with the GT, which still sells for $1 million used, and nobody drives them. They all have 25 miles on them when they show up at
Right.
auctions.
Which is a
But
real
there's definitely,
shame.
and I do think the GTD personally, I find it more appealing. It's more the American thing. Supercharged V8, the turbocharged V6 that was in the GT was always a little bit of a disappointment for $1 million supercar. But I think this hits the money a little bit better. But nevertheless, when you look at the RTR, the work that went into that, a top spec EcoBoost right now is going to be about $45,000. So this is certainly going to be more than that.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing 50 or more. And like you said, now you're bumping up against nice GTs. But Ford didn't say how many they're going to build. Maybe they're only planning on selling 1,000 of them. And maybe they worked it out and it works out for them at that number.
I mean, the last sort of special EcoBoost Mustang, if you recall, was that high output model that was out. I think it was like 2 or 3 years. There's going to be a scarcity thing. I mean, these cars will probably be like very interesting forever, simply because the audience for them is going to be smaller than, even a regular EcoBoost or even
People still
perhaps,
talk about
the
the
GT.
84 SVO Mustang. It's kind of the
Yeah.
reboot of that.
Well, and I recently was out driving and I saw one of those HO EcoBoost cars, and I noticed it. Well, I knew what it was, but it's
Wait,
like
can you identify that? I don't remember what those look like.
yeah, they have a badge on the fender that is not on other EcoBoost Mustangs at all. So the tell is subtle, but it's a tell, and it's something you don't see. So yeah, and you're not going to see a lot of these either. I don't think.
Let me ask you something else if you've seen lately. You've got the convertible Mustang. When's the
Yeah.
last time you saw another convertible Mustang in the New York metro area up here, not in Florida or California, but I don't see them anywhere.
Uh, there is somebody 2 streets up from me that I see every day when I'm walking the dog. They have the same gener. They have an S197 like mine. I think it's probably a year or so newer. But at least here around where I live in Connecticut, and when I'm driving around, I see a fair number.
Really, I'm surprised.
Yeah. And in the summer, more so in the summer. I drive my thing year round, so whatever. But they're not. I see plenty of convertibles, frankly. And in the summer, I see people actually using them. So
I'm thinking maybe you noticed them more because you're in one. It's that sort of effect.
uh, that there is probably a little bit to that. Yeah.
Nevertheless, not a lot of convertibles in general for sale anymore, especially American cars. I mean, you've got that. You've got the Corvette, which you could hardly even call a convertible with that hardtop, retractable hardtop. But going back to pony cars being replaced by trucks, I think convertibles have been as well. And you talk about the Jeep and the Wrangler. A lot of
Yeah.
people buy those, have no interest in taking them off road. They drive them because they're Tonka trunks and you can take the roof off them. And yet they have much more utility than a convertible car would be. So again, much like buying a truck instead of a sports car, they make more sense than buying a convertible car.
Indeed, and it's funny. I mean, you talk about Jeeps and Wranglers, especially. I mean, I see so many people buy the hardtops, and you never see those front panels off. Almost. I do see a lot of people with the soft tops flip back. You know how you can do that on the Wranglers. You can do that on the Broncos too, where you could just flip it. So to free up the air over the driver and front passenger. I see that pretty frequently. Again, up here, more suburban, maybe a little different than what you're going to see. I mean, you live in the city, so it's totally different deal.
Pretty clear that trucks are the thing right now when as far as fun vehicles are concerned. People who don't drive trucks don't get it. You get a pickup truck for the first time, it just feels cool. And it feels cool all the time. And sure, people don't always use them for what they can do as a truck. They're just cool to drive around in the same way an old school muscle car was cool to drive around in. And it's pretty clear that the automakers have been focused on them lately. Million different trims in every
Yeah.
brand. And up until now, last decade or so, it's been focused on off-road stuff. If you had a performance truck, it was a performance off-road truck. But now we're starting to see this creep into the street performance trucks. At least the automakers are trying to do it. You got the Ford Maverick Lobo. I drove that. It was a blast. Ford F-150 Lobo coming out. Dodge is putting out, or Dodge. I said Dodge when I was talking about Ram. And there's a good reason for that because people still do that. They're showing a lot more of these street models, at least as concepts. I think in one situation, they're just looking for a new market to sell trucks to. But I don't know, is there a natural street truck scene right now, or is this really something the automakers are trying to push on people?
I feel like it's something that the automakers are trying to encourage. We are the truck, capital of the galaxy, right? The United States. It's totally crazy. I mean, in my neighborhood alone, I probably need both hands to count the number of daily driven Ram 1500s, F-150s, Silverados, Sierras. That's just what a lot of people are using as their day-to-day
But they're all
vehicle,
stock or probably lifted. They're not dropped street trucks.
Yeah, mostly stock. And this is the thing, as a daily use vehicle, a standard spec truck with the factory, ride height and all that, that's just very practical for all around. So it makes sense as a daily driver. I love the whole idea of a street truck. I think they look great. I think that it is a super niche area to be in. And so things like that we've seen, like this Mopar Direct Ram that was unveiled, a couple weeks ago.
The Fox factory vehicle, 650
The
horsepower, lower
yeah, yeah,
suspension,
yeah,
bodywork.
yeah, the direct connection one. These are very cool and they're great. I think the audience for them is actually smaller than probably there is for a pony car, like a Mustang. Whereas an entry level enthusiast vehicle like the Maverick Tremor, or what's the Maverick
Lobo.
Lobo, sorry, that makes more sense to me as a sort of gateway drug for enthusiast motoring in general. So I feel like that's more of a sweet spot than some of these street trucks that I love. And there is Ford could totally do something like what we're seeing with this sort of aftermarket, Ram. GM could totally do something equally effective. They're all racing in trucks, so there's a way to sort of tie it to that. It really gets back to, is there a big enough, space for that? And if you have a pony car, if you're Stellantis or Ford, and I've got to believe General Motors will have something to fill that space again, pony car, muscle car. Do you want to do a truck instead? I feel like the market is either or, not both.
And it's been 20 years really since we've even seen them try to do this. Back then we had the good Ford F-150 Lightning,
Yeah.
the V8 one. We had the Dodge Ram SRT10, which was crazy with the Viper engine. But those were very niche. They didn't sell a lot of those. But I do think we might be seeing some more coming. And interestingly enough, Stellantis CEO Antonio Filosa was talking on the third quarter earnings call, and he announced that there are some new SRT Ram trucks coming soon. Now, I'm kind of assuming one of them is going to be the new TRX because it could definitely fall under the SRT
Sure.
banner. But I think he said there's two coming next year, which leads me to believe one of them might be a street truck.
That would make sense. I mean, you don't want to do two of the same thing, right? And Ram is a purely truck brand, so I feel like this makes a little more sense in that scenario, because it's adding variety to a lineup that is entirely trucks to begin with.
And the timing couldn't be better because in 2026, Ram is re-entering the NASCAR Truck Series for the first time since 2012. It's teamed up with Kaulig Racing for the effort, and it signed its first three drivers. You got Daniel Dye, Justin Haley, and the first one they signed, 2025 ARCA Menards Series Champion, Brenden Queen, who joins us now on the show. Congrats on the title, Brenden.
Hey, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was a awesome year and super excited about the Ram opportunity.
8 wins in your rookie year and the championship. Your one and done rookie year at ARCA. That had to be the dream.
Yeah, it is. It's I appreciate you reminding them that it's my rookie season because I don't get rookie of the year because I won the championship. So that was a little frustrating. But in my eyes, we won that too.
I do want to talk about Ram, but I want to go back a little bit to talk about how you got here. Back in 2019, you actually thought you were going to have a full-time ARCA ride that didn't pan out. How did you persevere after that? What did you do to keep the dream alive?
Yeah, honestly, when I had that whole thing fell through, I just kind of decided that I was going to be a late model guy, and I wanted to go home and just build my late model program to be, one of the greats where if I showed up, I had a shot to win late model races. And that's what I've really focused on and spent 19 we tried to get things in order. And then, 2020 through 22, we won 3 championships at Langley in a row and, won the Hampton Heat, won the Car Store race. So we had some really good success, and that was all I really wanted to do at that point. And obviously, in 22, things started to switch back to trying to make it a career again. And Man, what a journey it's been, and here we are.
Cars Tour Championship in 24, ARCA Championship 25. Are you ready for a truck championship in 26 already?
Well, obviously that's the goal. I know easier said than done, but I don't see why not. You know, we're surrounded by great people. I know Ram's putting a lot into it, and you know that's the goal. That's why we're going to go. We're going to go to try to win races and championships, and I know it's going to be some building pains, and we're going to have to work through it. But we got all season to get it figured out. You know, we just maybe sneak a win or points our way into the playoffs, and then once you're in, you just got to survive and make it to the Final Four. So easier said than done, but I don't see with all the people we got surrounded at Collie Racing that we can't build some fast trucks and go contend in the first year.
Yeah, and I should note, Colleagues in Cup, Xfinity, but this is its first Truck Series entry. Do you feel like you're building a new team there, or do they kind of have it going on already?
Kind of in the middle. I mean, you know, it's a lot of new stuff just because the Truck Series is their first time, and me being my first full-time season in it, and just kind of going through the motions of how everything's going to work. But at the same time, you know, they've won at the Cup level, they've won at the Xfinity level, so they're established and they have people. It's just trying to put everybody in the right place and you know, make sure everybody's in a spot that's going to work for them to build it to be successful. And I think they do a good job of that because they've already proven it.
You've had an opportunity to do a couple of Xfinity races, a couple of truck races. For you, do you like the way they drive, or are you good with that? Is the challenge going to be more driving the cars or the competition in these higher levels?
I mean, I think the competition for sure. I love the way the Xfinity car drives. I mean, that's probably been the most fun car I've drove, and just having the horsepower and having the small spoiler. But the truck's going to be similar, I feel like, to the ARCA series as far as motor wise and stuff like that. But the competition, obviously, I feel like the truck series has been tighter than ever on the top 15. So I think it's going to have its challenges, but just getting this experience this year is helping me prepare for it.
How long ago did this start coming together for you? Ram didn't announce it publicly until August. Had you already been talking to them, or did this all happen after that?
Yeah, negotiations started somewhere into July, early August was when we first started being approached and getting kind of serious about it, and then spent the month of August to September just going through options and negotiations, and I think we had it signed there, and you know, somewhere about probably a month and a half ago, probably before Bristol. So I feel like that's partially why I ended up in the Xfinity car too, was to get some races with these guys.
Now, aside from being a good driver, you're known for having a big personality. You win the races, you get up on top of the car, waving a giant American flag around. You look like you're already in one of these new Ram truck commercials. Do you feel like that was a big part of them getting interested in you along with your skills?
I hope so. You know, I just try to be myself and bring some energy to the racing world that maybe they haven't had in a while, and try to represent my core fan base, you know, all the blue collar people, and show them I'm just one of them. I mean, we leave there and go to the Waffle House just like everybody else, and love the American flag, love what it stands for, and you know, I hope that I fit the Ram mold, and that helps. Hopefully, maybe end up in a commercial with the mullet flying for them. You never know, so that'd be cool.
You mentioned blue collar background. I mean, just a couple of years ago, you were working the docks in Virginia as a longshoreman. Is that right?
Yes, sir. At 22, I was working there, and I was racing Langley and Dixieland on Friday and Saturdays, and having to get people to cover my shifts, and just trying to do it all, and was going to have to make a decision. I probably wasn't going to be racing much longer at a full-time capacity, and luckily everything just started to work out. You know, the State and Family with Best Repair Company helped me out a lot, and got me to leave my job and pursue the Cars Tour, and they helped me out tremendously to get to this point.
I mean, it seems like one day when they make the Brenden Queen movie after you win the NASCAR championship, that's going to be like your Rocky Balboa moment. They're going to go back to that and be talking about those days.
Yeah, it's been a journey, and I think it just makes you appreciate it even more. Um, I don't fake it, and a lot of people don't know how my situation was unless you were there and got to experience it. And it was some tough days, a lot of sacrifice along the way. And I mean, I left my job. I left a good paying job with good benefits to go race late model stock in the car store where I wasn't making any money, and had no other option. I had to put all the chips in, and I had to make it work. And I think that's why I drove the way I did, because I had to make it happen.
You think those extra years, if you'd gotten that ARCA ride in 2019, do you think you would have been half as good back then, or do you think those extra years really paid off?
I think it just helped me with maturity and appreciation, and it made me who I am. And I sat there and I thought about that a long time. Like, man, I wish that I, could have had this opportunity 10 years ago. And of course, I would have took it, but I don't change my story for anything. I think it shaped me into who I am, and I learned so many lessons along the way. And I don't know if I'd be the person I am without those years of trial and error. So, I'm content with how it's going, and just happy to be here.
Well, best of luck next year, and we really do appreciate you talking to us today.
Hey, no, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Alex, what do you think of this guy? I mean, to me, he is genetically engineered as what NASCAR needs right now. He is the perfect NASCAR driver as this series looks to refine its footing and find a new audience or get some of its old audience back.
I mean, super likable, which is the most important part, right? I mean, NASCAR is a very driver-oriented series. The personalities are these guys that are behind the wheel. He's got such a great story, and he's almost like an ad for, the ladder, going from, late model and car series champion to ARCA champion, and he's going to go right into trucks. And you've got to believe he's going to just continue climbing right up that ladder to the point where we'll see him as a fixture, eventually in Xfinity and Cup.
I mean, I hope we never find out anything bad about him because right now he's just the greatest thing ever. And he's a good driver. He's a clean driver. People like him as a driver. A lot of times you get people that are fast and they have a big personality, but everybody hates him on the track. He's a great racer. And the thing is the enthusiasm. You could tell he loves it. And like he said, he drives like he has to drive because he
Yeah.
does. And I think that's one of the problems right now. NASCAR's missing a big star right now. Chase Elliott can win most popular driver every year, but he really doesn't transcend the sport the way Jeff Gordon did, the way even Jimmy Johnson did. People not into NASCAR are not big Chase Elliott fans. They're not big Denny Hamlin fans. There's nobody really in NASCAR right now that you can put on the same level as an athlete from one of the other major sports, whereas 20 years ago you could.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to somebody last night. We have a sort of Halloween sort of display, and it was a local dad was over, and he was talking about he brought up NASCAR completely unprompted, and he was talking about how when he was a kid, he loved the three, he loved Dale Earnhardt, and then next thing he said to me, he's like, "Who are the big guys now?" So like this is the problem in a nutshell, right? This is somebody who NASCAR had who was extremely engaged, back then, and now he's older, he's a parent, he's got, two young kids running around my front yard when we were having this conversation, and he had no idea who any of the drivers were. It's like for him, history ended with like Jimmy and Jeff Gordon.
And I think that's the case with a lot of fans. I think in the last 5 years, NASCAR's just lost, possibly forever, a lot of the old Gar fans. And I'm not even sure Queen can bring them back, but who were those people in the first place? I think the younger versions of those people are going to find appeal to him. The people who do race at short tracks, the people who can relate to somebody like Brenden Queen, they might not be into NASCAR right now, but they're going to see him and get excited about it. And I think he'll bring those people in. So it's sort of a new version of the old NASCAR fan who NASCAR's lost forever. Let's just jump down a generation or two. People from those communities who aren't into NASCAR right now, someone like him getting them into the fold.
Yeah, I mean, younger talent is also going to be more visible in different ways. So this sort of traditional NASCAR fan is not necessarily going to see these guys on the channels that they are going to be prevalent on, right? Different social platforms and whatever. But again, just anybody that just listened to that interview, like I said, super likable, super enthusiastic, very authentic. So that the authenticity is another thing that I think that's something that traces back to these guys that everybody sort of reveres historically in NASCAR. Whereas everybody right now, and it's not an indictment of anybody, but I mean, modern drivers are so media trained and so you know so polished. This guy is, when you hear him talk, he's a great storyteller. You believe it's everything that's coming out of his mouth just feels like it's from the heart. I think that resonates with people, and over the long term, that sort of personality is what draws fans and like sort of cements them to the driver over the long term, gets them buying their merch and supporting their sponsors and all that stuff.
And he's a perfect marriage with Ram because Ram is coming into this with that same attitude. And Ram is about to throw so much effort and money at this thing. And, it's not expensive to run a truck series team. You could run one out of your garage if you want. And even a top tier team, a couple $1 million a year. Ram probably spent more money on the advertising campaign announcing it's coming back to the truck series than it will all next season. And it's going to spend a lot more on that as well. So you stick Queen into those Ram ads, those Ram promotions. And then if NASCAR's smart, it'll get on the bandwagon as well. All this is going to come together and really just elevate everybody.
Oh, I have no doubt that NASCAR will be on the bandwagon. I mean, NASCAR celebrates anytime they have a new opportunity, like a new manufacturer, coming. I mean, sure, this is in a sense, it's a returning manufacturer, going back to Dodge, but a new brand in one of their national series is such a big deal, and everybody is going to be promoting that very heavily.
Kind of reminds me of a couple of years ago when Marcus Lemonis was sponsoring the truck series with Camping World and Gander Outdoors, and he got very involved with it. He was like throwing money at the drivers if they finished in the top five or whatever it was, like that, tweeting all the time. And I think that actually probably helped the truck series more than people really give it credit for. He's moved on. Craftsman's back in there now. But again, I think Ram is going to have that same effect.
Listen, the bottom line is the trucks are cool, but go to a truck race. It's fun to watch. These guys go at it. And, I've seen trucks on ovals and I've seen trucks on road course. And, if you have not had an opportunity to go to a race before, I always encourage anybody, go to any race, whether it's NASCAR, IMSA, IndyCar, your local runoffs, go to something. But if you can go to a NASCAR weekend or go to a trucks weekend, very accessible. You're going to be able to you're going to have a good time. You're going to see some fun stuff, and personalities like Brenden are going to make that night of the weekend really fun.
And once Ford and Chevrolet see what Ram's doing next year and already is doing to promote this, hopefully they're going to jump on that bandwagon as well and start putting more effort into the truck series promotions and really could explode this series.
I mean, they sell more. I mean, on one side of it, everybody sells more pickup trucks than they sell anything else combined, right? Of the domestic, automakers. So in a sense, do they really need to market something that effectively sells itself? No, but this halo effects, in my opinion, are real. I think Dodge, like you said, Dodge, I keep calling it Dodge. Stellantis is going to, take full advantage of this sort of re-entry with Ram into the series, and I hope that does rub off on Ford and Chevy and Toyota, and go out there and have some fun with it. You sell a ton of these vehicles. They're your most important vehicles. I know that this is of the three-step ladder of the national series. This is theoretically I'm using air quotes that you can't see, the lowest step, but they're racing your most important vehicles in terms of everything else. So hopefully we see that turn that you just talked about.
Well, it's going to be exciting. We're looking forward to next season and what's coming up with those production trucks as well. Alex, thanks for being with me as always today. If you want to stay on top of all the latest NASCAR news and truck news and American cars and racing news, head over to AmericanCarsAndRacing.com. We'll see you next time.